my one and only sister. It is I, Mario, sitting in for my one and only sister. Second time, 2 weeks in a row. And allow me to express my gratitude because my beloved audience is always there when I get my voice amplified. So we are only too grateful for this afternoon here, where, like last week, we don't want to stray from the road. My one and only sister was traveling, which is education. And beloved, last Wednesday, we did our best, and we will continue to do our best today as we try to further open up, expose, and explain to the best of our ability what we mean by African humanities. Yes, beloved. A term that, well, I was going to say you really hear, but I don't know if you just hear it even really. I can't recall ever hearing that term spoken, African humanities. Well, first of all, like we did last week, let us try to explain what we mean by knowledge. And that is things that we understand, we know. Knowledge. Well, there are two kinds of knowledge. Two kinds. There is the universal that we call science, and then there is the local, which we call human. So it comes down to those two kinds of knowledge: scientific knowledge, human knowledge. And beloved, it is no way as complex or just simply academic as it might sound to you. All we're talking about is that knowledge comes in these two categories, if you will. And the one that we call science is universal because it doesn't matter where you go in the world, you will find them to be the precise, exact, as you know it, wherever you may be coming from. And so I use a simple arithmetic example. So 1 plus 1 equals 2. And it don't matter where you live, where you come from, where you go. It's scientific. 1 plus 1 equals 2. And that is what we mean by the universal kind of knowledge where everybody is on the same page and it doesn't matter where you happen to be. It is exactly the same, scientific. Now the other one, the other kind of knowledge that we call local, because it is where you live, where you come from, where you were raised, brought up, and acquired the way of living that you live. And that is what we call human, the human knowledge, humanities. And beloved, it just so happens that we got a great example of humanities just yesterday on my Tuesday program, where we spoke about a particular humanity that is local or was local because it doesn't stand any longer, but it was local to Scandinavia. So that it is correct to say that the Scandinavian humanities up to the 19th century was what one might call a Viking ideology, the kind of patriarchy where women are reduced to objects, things, you know, property belonging to men. Well, it came about yesterday because we were happening to discuss how the Danish viewed capital crimes when it came to women. And as we explained, the humanities in Scandinavia at the time clearly described women as not being capable of committing a capital crime like murder. And that if they were actually found to have committed the capital crime of murder, it had to be because she was possessed by some evil spirit and was therefore a witch. And so that when it came to the 14 women that were executed after the Great Fire burn in 1878, the Danish humanities spoke to women not being capable of committing murder, to commit a capital crime. And so these 14 women who have been charged with being instrumental in the Great Fire burn, they had to suffer the charge of being witches. And as such, they would be burned at the stake alive, because that is again how the Scandinavian humanity unfolded up until the 19th century. You will find women being executed if they were charged and convicted of a crime. They would suffer the punishment in prison. But when it came to a capital crime now, murder, it's, no. According to the Scandinavian humanity, women, females are simply not capable of committing capital crime such as murder. And if they've been so charged and convicted, it had to be that they were possessed by evil spirits that caused them to commit these capital crimes. And so, this is why after the Great Fire burn had started October 1st, 1878, when these women were captured and charged with being the leaders. Queen Mary being the leader was shipped off to Copenhagen, Denmark, because the royalty was curious to know, well, who could this woman be that could lead a great fire burn, and women are not capable of capital crimes? What was going on? And so, yes, Queen Mary was shipped to Denmark as a curiosity. But the 14 others that was charged as leaders of the Great Fire burn, they were taken to Grove Place, where is the battlefield nowadays. The center of the village of Grove Place, these 14 women were stripped and secured to these stakes buried in the ground, bagasse thrown at their feet, and then they were set on fire. And this was their sentence as witches, not human beings, no, witches. And these 14 women were born alive according to the Scandinavian humanity. And that's the point I'm trying to make by using this ending of the Great Fire Burn in 1878 to demonstrate how the humanities apply in a global manner as opposed to science being universal. Because while this humanity was embraced in Scandinavia right on through to the 19th century, it wasn't like you could go around the world and find that people everywhere and anywhere clung to the same belief. And that's the point that we try to make, that distinguishes a science from a humanity. And this particular humanity that was, well, a part of the Scandinavian way of life gives us the opportunity to explain how it is that we have two kinds of knowledge: the scientific and the humanity. And beloved, if we have sufficiently explained the difference between things scientific and humanities, I would definitely like to turn a page to examine then what we have been trying to look at since last week, Wednesday, all in the name of education, as my one and only sister continues to deliberately walk that road of the education that we are so desperate to need. Well, we are now trying our best to explain how it applies to our situation as descendants of enslaved Africans. Because, again, beloved, matters not our location, our circumstance, our condition. Even as enslaved Africans, scientific knowledge did not change. did not in any way become different because the circumstances of our ancestors was different to go from well free people to an enslaved people. Scientific knowledge remains. So 1 plus 1 is still 2. But then now, what about the humanity? And that's what we like to take a closer look at. What we refer to as African humanities. And yes, beloved, maybe we can get a better grasp, better comprehension as to why that is a terminology that we don't hear. African humanities? What is that? It is not just rare, it's unheard of because we are implying that there was a time when Africans were human beings, which is contrary to the story we get coming from our enslavers and colonizers, that we were the primates before human beings, uncivilized. And so, no need to investigate in the hope of finding humanities because you weren't even human beings. How you gonna have humanities? And such was our situation, beloved, that it lingers and up until today that you don't ever hear such a term expressed anyway. I found it in, you know, a few books, but I have never heard it spoken. And when I have occasion to mention it, people, uh, well, the expression that they return when they hear me say something, African humanities, it's like, what the heck are you talking about, Mario? But, beloved, that nonetheless is our reality. And well, what we hope with this second Wednesday in a row, filling in for my one and only sister and her track for education, well, we would like the opportunity to take a, well, a closer look at that term, African humanities, and why it is unheard of, and when heard, just stupefying to the Islamic. And it's like, what are you talking about? African humanities. What could such a thing be? Well, first of all, beloved, we usually associate the word humanities with the arts. So that when we hear about humanities. First thing that comes to mind is, things artistic and even close education. It would be philosophical writings
Hi.
and things like that.
Just checking.
But,
You're good. You're good. You're good.
but again, we don't get or just distracted a little bit. But I think what at the top of the hour or what was going on there, Good afternoon. Good afternoon. No, no, beloved. So yes, I'm still trying to get technologically adjusted, and so let me get back to the point where I was trying to make that. When we hear the word humanities, we generally think of things related to art, artistic, and last thing I was saying is you know philosophy and philosophic writings and musings, all of these things is what generally come to mind because this is how we refer to humanities. And the closest thing to, well, it being a kind or category or form of knowledge is that it is, I don't say often, but it is found in the social sciences. And so that you could find, well, humanities to be a social science. But we made it to the top, and that means it's time for an ID. So, beloved, come with me while we take our first break of the afternoon here. Hold straight, we will be right back. We're back. Beloved, it is like unsealing the covenant of some major mystery in the history of our lives as human beings. Beloved, the fact of the matter is that it's a collision because we are brought up to believe that we are inferior people with no history that extends beyond slavery, so that our history begins with slavery. And before that, we were just primates swinging in trees, with the rest of our ape and gorilla family. Good afternoon.
Good afternoon, beloved my brother.
Welcome.
Tony Pumba in St. Croix.
Welcome home, man. Welcome home.
My brother. Go ahead.
No, I was just saying that up to yesterday, someone asked, if you had come home yet, and I said, well, I didn't hear from him, but he did say that he was coming. So I imagine, that if he ain't come yet, he coming. And now you prove him to be correct, because here he is. And so, beloved, Junie Bomba in the house. He is home. How you feeling, man? How you feel?
Man, I feel great, Mario, and I'm glad to be home with my people that I love.
And we love to have him, son. Love having you. And it is the best feeling in the world, that thinking that we're on the verge of never being able to set eyes on Julie Bomba again. And look at this. Here he is at home with us. And we could, beat some drum, dance some rhythms, and smile and love each other.
Well, Mario, I know you've been on the radio now for so long that I know what you have tried and what you have done for the people already in St. Croix and all over the Caribbean. And I know that the people in all over the Virgin Islands listen to your program, and you set up to St. Louis, where I was for 6 years, and they love you. And I know of that cool down Mario. When I leave up there 2 weeks ago, went to sleep in the morning, 3 o'clock, me and Haley to go to the airport to come home.
Yeah.
It was 4 degrees.
Jeez, man. Hey, just saying that make me feel cool, man. Wait. Just saying it, Julie Bomba. Just saying it, sir. Wait.
I'm snow on the ground.
Also, we ain't with that one at all.
You know what, Matt Mario?
What that?
I'm up at the Harbor Creek.
No. You're how about Greg here in the middle of the island?
I'm staying at Harbor Creek.
What?
Hello?
We are come check you, man.
Yeah, man. Check me. Check Bobby and Anna, they come check me already.
Well, that's what I tell you up to just yesterday. Somebody asked me if you come home yet, and I was telling him, I said, well, I ain't hear from you, I know, but I'm sure you're coming. And so now I could spread the word that yes, You remember the woman you they call it Fanita Howard Greg?
Yes. Yeah.
Yeah, man, I check you.
Been here now for the like 2 weeks now,
What is this? Look at that. Look at that.
Yeah. Yeah.
Well, again,
And
that's a welcome home.
I will I would like to come and give you my website. I got business in St. Louis
Uh,
with the tank shell thing I got. And it makes, oh God, I want to see Mario Gumball. I got business up there, me and Haley put it together. And
Okay.
it's been doing pretty good.
okay.
They put in like tank shell stuff and fabric, blanket, pillowcase, beach towel,
Uh,
carpet mug, coasters, placemats. Oh God, you name it.
well, hey, you deserve it, my son, because what you did to the conch shell just is just add beauty to beauty.
Well,
So,
I get a talent from it. I get a talent from my ancestors and I bring it out so people could see.
and we definitely appreciate it, my son.
You know one thing, Mario, and I want to say this. I talking to you this afternoon, my love, beloved, and with a higher power, I was not gonna be here 6 years ago. With a higher power, Mario,
Uh,
the higher power, Mario. If he believed in higher power, he will do miracles, and you won't believe it, but he's the one. Start not when you need him, but stick with him, and you'll be surprised how much miracle he do for you, Mario.
I hear.
And I'm a witness of miracle because Mario, I've been in the hospital up there 3 months, don't get up there 3 months, and I could walk. I had to learn to walk again. They had to feed me. I couldn't eat. I couldn't do nothing for 3 months. I lay there. My baby come in, she cried. Everybody come in, they cried. And they said, oh God, this, the other. I said, I don't worry, man, I gonna be all right. And sometimes when they got a conversation and I could hear what they're talking, but I put behind my ear.
Yeah.
And one night I was there laying in my bed in the hospital. It been about just before time to go to bed, and I see there's a figure in front of me, and I said, God, that's you. And I'm gonna say this, Mario, you are God. You are a God. And you got a few more gods around here that people don't see it. But you are God. Because I tell you, he dressed in white garments, and you got the ear style that you got down to the ground. And he got so much jewelry on him and all kind of diamonds and things that, that's the way we used to be when we were we. We used to be like that. And people just, I don't know, they come like, people don't respect people that are standing out for the people. They don't see it. And that's one thing that in St. Croix especially, they don't respect you. And it's something that we need to get rid of. And that's the way how we think and the way how we treat one another and the way how we don't like one another. And it's sad because if you study back history, you will see that we are the original people and always was. But it's just the things that we do to destroy one another, and we gotta stop that because Mario, it's not a good thing for no one of us. We are the same color. We all come from the same earth here. We come from, people that we think, right, a place to go know each other. The guy smiled. And I can't see how we could just, the things we do to one another is so sad. Sad because, Mario, I think that these islands are blessed, but we need to change the way how we treat each other and what we think of one another. Because we're the same black people. All of us come from Africa. So what is what? It just is the way history is. And we just have to understand and put it back in the schools so the children could know where they come from, and then they will know where they're going. They're giving all kind of different things in from America and everywhere, and we following that, and that's not ours. That's why we're destroying one another. Because that's not ours. It's not ours. It don't belong to us. Beloved, I'm going to be quiet.
I'm listening to you.
I'm going to hear you respond.
I am just overjoyed to hear your voice and to know that you're home, because like I said up to just yesterday, I was asked about you, and I was thinking that you ain't reached yet. And so my answer was like, you're coming, and here you are now showing me that you 2 weeks you done there, man. So yes, I'm overjoyed to hear that, man. Hear your voice.
Them boy come up there and them boys like me had about 150 people when I come inside the terminal building. And I'm gonna try to send you the video because all the man being up the beating drum and blowing shell and about 150 people and man I take off my coat and thing and I Lego my foot down.
I hear.
I dance like Paddy Moore and Rollins and then
Well, you see that? Yeah, man. I am, I guess, almost stunned with surprise when you said this is Judy Bomba, because, like I said, just yesterday they asked me for you, and I think you reached yet.
And I did home.
Yeah, you don't there 2 weeks. Imagine that. So, yeah.
Maybe tomorrow night, they got a thing down at the museum, and he was also playing.
Yeah.
Some jazz and things.
Yeah.
And I brought them some drums with me, and I go there, God willing, and I'm going to sit in with them at the museum. We start at 6 to 8.
Good thing.
This is the first music I ever played since I left St. Croix. And this is the first music I ever played with Eddie in over 20 years.
Look at that. You and Eddie were so. That's crucial talent right there, son.
So that's to show you the love I have for my people, Mario.
Glad to have you, man. Glad to have you.
And I wish everybody the best for the new year because since I left Mario, so much people call me and tell me this one gone, that one gone. All kind of cleaning and all kind of people going and I said, oh my God, when I come back, we don't got nobody to sit down and kind of talk with.
No, man. We still there, man. Still there. So.
All right, then, don't worry. You can get some eye talk before I go to the
Good thing.
Mario,
so we'll check you and
I would like to to come to your program when it's time. And I just like to say this. I got some things that I want to give away on your program for tribute.
Okay.
And I don't come and I'll set it up with you when you think it's appropriate for me to come. And I'm going to bring some gifts and
okay. Anytime.
And I want to remember my friend, your brother, what's his name? That we used to be in the studio with, the one that run for Senate.
Come on, you talk.
Mario. Your brother that you run in the Senate and he lost, he passed away. He used to be in the studio with me, you, all of us. What's his name? You know what I'm talking about, Mario.
Yeah.
Your brother used to be there on the station with you.
What's someone?
Rabat.
My
Rabat,
nephew.
the name?
My nephew talking about.
Yeah,
Yeah.
we name what?
Robert Moorhead, my nephew.
Rabat, yeah. I want to remember him.
Yeah.
That's my boy. And your sister, Peggy.
Yeah.
And all the people them down at Yuka and all the people them who used to be there before that fall out. You know, we is the one who begin the July 3rd thing, and we're the one who kept it alive, and you the one who go out there talking about the history of everything. And you know, it's so sad that down there go run cattle through it, and as soon as we got fireworks, we can't find a place to park. And sometimes that don't bother me so much, Mario, that I have feel one time, you know. I have feel one time not to come back to the thing, you know. Because of the way how we do things to one another. So I don't know why we can't see that it is strong and it's trying with you. I'll be honest with you. Which other cultural people in the world doing what we do to one another? Which some people think shoot up one another, killing one another, doing all kind of destruction to one another for our house, for things. I mean, go explain that, but we do it. Come on, man. Come on, no, man. God, man. It's 2026. Come on, we can't say that destroying we. Destroy we. Nobody doing it. We doing it to ourselves. We. And then we talking about people calling it in the grave. What are we doing? Killing one another, destructing one another, killing one another, doing this to one another. That's not we. That's not we. That's somebody else's thing. That's not our culture. We don't do that. We pick up that. And look what he's doing. Look at graveyard by Center and the place of Double Clover by there. When I come down there, the sun, oh God, it must be hard, Mario.
I hear you.
To see the two of them look like a state in America. Come on, people, come on, we are not that. Why are we doing it? Because it's an orange. And this is destroying us because we not. But we're not going out by never. So then, beloved,
Listen to every word.
okay, better. I don't want to take up the whole program, but you know, I just have to touch base with you because Mario, we go a long way. So
Well, I'm glad you called, man, because like I say, you know, you don't want it to be any more spiritual than this, that I tell you, just yesterday, I get asked for you. And I saying, well, no, I don't think you reach yet, but you're coming. And here you are today now telling me you ain't just there. You've been here for 2 weeks already. You
Yeah,
know.
to the
So
next 2 weeks.
yeah, so I overjoyed with that, man. I overjoyed with that.
Yeah. Well, I was telling them people up there before I come, I tell them I'm going to wheel and come again.
There you go. There you go.
And you're going from the inside out, not the outside in.
There you go. There you go.
And if people believe that, then we won't do what we're doing to one another.
Well,
Deal with yourself inside, not from the outside.
yeah.
That don't belong to we.
We ain't
Here
giving up.
in the inside.
We ain't giving up. We ain't giving up.
If we do from the inside, then things will change.
All right.
But if we keep doing from the outside, it's not yours. It's distracting you from doing yours from the inside. So when you're doing from the outside, you fail. You're failing. You're failing. You're failing.
I hear
But if
you.
you start doing it from the inside, then you're producing love, respect, and help one another. Not evil and wickedness and killing and all that. That's not we. Stop it. It's time now for that to go in the garbage can or either up to the dump and done with it. Stop it. It's not belong to us. Outside thing is not ours. It's not. And if we think and think and think to keep doing that, then Mario, we're going to have no black young people around because we're going to destroy our own younger generation. And it's going to be somebody that need to talk and tell them, put back Caribbean history in the school. Why is it so hard to put that? This is our history.
Right.
Why we got to put it in the... Hey, it doesn't my heart when I went to that courtroom. I get up and walk out.
Yeah.
I walk out the courtroom because I can't believe the man are telling me and my about that we can put on this and that and such. We don't agree some young stuff. You been there.
I know.
You been there.
That's right.
And I said to myself, this man, I know my culture. He's from America. That's why he's telling me this. This is my culture. I got on my little nice shoes. Got on my dashiki and thing. He telling me that I can't come in the courtroom like that. Have you ever hear somebody telling you something that you some little child attacking to?
Wait. It was something like this thing right now. It was something like this thing right now, you remember. That's what we fight in.
I tell you, well, brother, I said this to you. You better start getting back our history, like how the guy in Africa doing. He bringing back people from Africa to do for the place. The man there up there, and I going back up there. And if you go up there, Mario, I got 4 weeks and if you go up there, me coming back. Yeah, because being like what the people doing to each other, we are all black. Stop it, man.
All right.
Killing down one another. What are doing?
I don't know, but I will check you, Judy Bomba. I'll check you, man. You know, so my team I'll try to my team try to make it tomorrow. But I got to go. I got to go, man. I got to go. That's about the hour.
Okay, I love you. Bye-bye.
You take care, man. We'll see you soon.
Bye-bye.
All right, bye. Full stream, beloved. We are going to take this break and be right back with you. back, beloved. Really good to welcome Julie Bomba. Having back home will be seeing her in person soon enough. But beloved, if anything, he make me even more aware at the point I was trying to make. African humanities, beloved, were able to, I hope so anyway, were able to explain how the Scandinavian humanities played out while Denmark was our colonizer, and how they dealt with women, how the Viking ideology of patriarchy, how it applied to them in their locality. And again, which is the point that whereas the science is universal, the humanities are local. And so, whatever humanities we could analyze from the Scandinavian Viking ideology, it is for us to understand that that applies to them in their location, in their particular period of historical development, because they have since abandoned that ideology. And it's not like nowadays a female would be considered a witch if she was in Denmark and committed a capital crime. That's part of the historical past. But the point is what I hope we get across to you, that humanities are a local thing. And so that the humanities that we might analyze from the Scandinavian people back in the 19th century and beyond, or before, they certainly not apply to our African ancestors. And of course, the fact that we were conquered and enslaved made all the difference in the world. But, beloved, that was the doing of our conquerors. That was the doing of our enslavers, our colonizers. Because their purpose was to dehumanize us, to make us their property. And we were simply used as their labor power. But, beloved, it does not in any way erase the reality that people, whatever their circumstances and wherever their locality, they have humanities that apply to them. And so, beloved, hey, from the 15th century right on through to the 19th century, beloved, African humanities were dominated by the reality of our conquest, enslavement, and colonization. And why wouldn't our conquerors, our enslavers, our colonizers, why wouldn't they double down on those beliefs so that we could always be thinking that we were never human beings? We were always inferior beings. So don't look, because you will never find African humanities. No such thing ever existed. And that is the that is the history that we have been taught ever since the late 19th century, when the Moravians, amongst others, were dedicated as our missionaries to make us believe in well, the humanity that they have created as a bubble for us to live in. When in fact, beloved, our conquest and our enslavement only give us a history of courage and resistance that cause us to emancipate ourselves from the physical enslavement. But certainly the mental enslavement continues. And it is a struggle that we are waging. I know when we are trying to convince the third branch of government, the judiciary, the courts, that Bert Bryant's law of 1983 has not been implemented, and the court should find it to be a violation by the Department of Education not implementing that Bert Bryant law that clearly states that Virgin Islands history and basic Caribbean history must be an integral part of our curriculum from kindergarten to 12th grade. But absent that, without that, beloved, this is how we find ourselves here now. Not understanding that, yes, there are such things as African humanities. And it is worth our time, our commitment, our dedication to learn what just how and when did we lose our African humanities? Because, beloved, there came a time when we were conquered, and yes, there came a time when we were enslaved. Beloved, until the 7th century, before the Common Era, or as many schools would say, the 7th century before Christ, the 7th century BC. Beloved, this was when the conquest took place. Yes, up until the 7th century BCE, before this current era, the African civilization of ancient Egypt was the dominant civilization on the planet. And no amount of obfuscation or deliberate subversion could erase that reality. Like, for instance, beloved, you would find much history in the Holy Bible that took place in Africa. Moses was supposed to have been Moses was supposed to have been raised and educated in Africa. Yet and still, beloved, because it is always critically important that we suppress any African humanity so that it doesn't matter how careful you read the Holy Bible, the Old Testament, the New Testament. It doesn't matter. Beloved, somehow you will never find the great pyramids in the Bible. And it is examples like these that should cause our present consciousness to be troubled and ask questions like, well, how could there be any history in Africa, like with Moses, but never a mention of the pyramids, the great pyramids? Well, again, beloved, the inability to explain those edifices, those mighty structures, those pyramids. How could you explain them other than what we continue to hear from intellectuals and scholars alike, that it was an alien people from another universe who came to Earth and actually constructed the pyramids, and then they left. And beloved, most unfortunately, too many of us find credibility in such a fantasy. And we want to believe that yes, aliens from another planet did in fact come and build the pyramids. Same way, beloved, how we are told that the Exodus took place when the Red Sea parted so that the Israelites could cross over from Africa to Asia. But again, beloved, if you give it some thought, you would ask yourself, well, how did the Israelites get to Egypt in the first place? How did they come to be in Egypt? Well, beloved, they walked as you have been able to do for millennia, what is known as the Sinai Peninsula. Enables one to walk from Asia to Egypt, or vice versa, from Egypt to Asia. No need to have a pattern of the seas because, yes, you know, the Sinai Peninsula is there. Yet and still, beloved, we have accepted that the only way the Israelites could follow Moses to leave Egypt and to get to Asia was to have this miracle to part the Red Sea so the Israelites could walk across. Beloved, once again, why was a miracle needed for the Israelites to leave Egypt, but no miracle was needed for them to arrive in Egypt? They just walked. But somehow the narrative, the story that we're told, is that the only way to get across the Red Sea was to have it miraculously part and allow for the exodus of the Israelites. Well, beloved, again, this is a story we're told, but the history does not follow the story of this exodus. Because while this would have been, well, about what, 5, 6, 700 years before the conquest of Egypt. Beloved, Ashurbanipal to conquer ancient Egypt. And this was the beginning of the end of Egypt being created by Black Africans. That's right. Because it is at this time that the word Exodus should be used to describe the movement of the people. Because as the Babylonian out of Assyria, Ashurbanipal successfully invaded Egypt. Beloved, the Egyptians were Black Africans. And that's right. And this was the first exodus. And it was an exodus of Black Africans fleeing from Egypt and the invasion of the barbarian Ashurbanipal that caused Black Africans to flee up south and to begin the population of the continent of Africa. Because within another handful of generations, by the 6th century now, the Persian Cambyses, yes, beloved, Cambyses attacked ancient Egypt, defeated the forces of Ashurbanipal, and beloved, the Persian army made it their business to destroy every trace of Black African humanities. Mind you, the sciences could not be destroyed because they had already been developed. This is how Black Africans had, in fact, tamed, domesticated the Nile River and planned to control the annual overflow of the Nile with the geometrical designing of canals to make the land productive. Again, beloved, Cambyses and the Persians, they accepted the science, made use of the science, but destroyed every humanity. The African humanities were destroyed by bonfire at the hands of the Persians led by Cambyses. And beloved, it is to this day the cardinal sin, if you will, accept that terminology, that we refuse to accept that yes, indeed, the African humanities did exist and was destroyed first in the 7th century and then in the 6th century. But beloved, we take a look as to how we got there because the Egyptian priest Manetho said the African civilization began in the 17th century before the current era. So hold straight, beloved. We'll be right back. Yes, beloved, we now know just when the African humanities were erased from history, destroyed. The Persians, led by Cambyses Sabi, that was their mission to burn and destroy every humanity that existed in the black African Egyptian civilization. And it is, well, what can we say other than amazing in that we never told about these things. We are never exposed to the African humanities. We never exposed to the African history. So when we speak of the history of that Egyptian priest by the name of Manito, he stated that it was in the 17th century before the common era that the African civilization began. Now, beloved, if you just try and relate to the time period before when before the destruction of the humanities and at the beginning of the African civilization, beloved, we're talking about 20,000 years ago. $20,000 years ago. Beloved, I wonder if we have any idea at all as to well, maybe we should, at this point here, find ourselves up south, because even that is radical. You always think of south being down, but beloved, in the ancient Black African civilization of Egypt, south was up. You had to go up south to reach the source of the Nile in the mountains of the moon. And so that when our ancestors decided to leave the mountains of the moon for the Garden of Eden, that was the Nile River Valley, beloved, they would not be going up north. No, they were going down north, because when you leave the mountains of the moon, the source of the Nile River, and you want to travel from the source, the 5,000 miles, to get to the Mediterranean Sea, beloved, it is for us to fully comprehend that we're talking about traveling down north, following the Nile River that flows from up south to down north. And radical as that sounds to you, that is the reality today. The Nile River flows from up south in the mountains of the moon to down north in the Nile River Valley. That is the Garden of Eden that started our civilization. Beloved, what Ashurbanipal found in the 7th century was what had developed over, well, 10,000 years. This is the time when we learn of checks and balances and the structure of society being matriarchal, not patriarchal. And again, beloved, the difficulty in comprehending these realities is compounded by the way the history is told to us. so that we have come to believe that how patriarchy means that men rule, men run things. It causes us to believe that matriarchy is the opposite, and that matriarchy means women rule. Well, beloved, nothing tago sa, nothing tago sa. And this is what first Ashobadipal and then Cambyses were able to learn, and he did so passionately that they did everything to destroy it and remove it from the face of the earth. Because, beloved, the matriarchal society that was implemented in ancient Egypt did not have females, women running things. That's not at all what matriarchy is about. Matriarchy simply means that women, females, the only human beings to reproduce, that they are able to keep the children they reproduce. In the patriarchal society that we live in today, this is what conquered matriarchy. And so that, beloved, while it is still woman who reproduces, but women do not get to keep the children they reproduce. The children immediately gets the name of the father. And the child no longer belongs to the mother, but the child belongs to the father. That is the patriarchal system. And that is where matriarchy comes in, is that no, it is not a matter of who runs things, who leads. It is who is able to reproduce. Men cannot reproduce, beloved. A man is as barren as concrete. Men cannot reproduce, cannot bear children. Only women can do that. And this is what matriarchy protects. Matriarchy protects the reproductive gift that woman brings to humanity. So that in the matriarchal society that existed before Ashurbanipal, before Cambyses, children kept their mother's name continue to belong to the mother's family. And in this matriarchal system of society, inheritance passes through the female, not the male. So that a child will not be inherited from his father as the system of patriarchy tells us today. No, in a matriarchal system, the child will inherit from the mother's family because in the matriarchal system, the child remains in the mother's family. And so, rather than inheriting from his father, it would be inherited from the mother's brother, the mother's family. This is how the matriarchal system works. But they would have us believe that it is the opposite of patriarchy. And so you are to disregard it. If anything, you should fear the matriarchal system because it means that women would be the rulers of society. And the point we're trying to make here is non tago sa, beloved. Non tago sa. Matriarchal simply means that the mother, who is the only human being capable of reproducing in the matriarchal system, the mother maintains a relationship with a child. The picnic belongs to the mother, inherits from the mother's family, takes on the mother's family name, not the father. And this, beloved, is one of the checks and balances that keep the female gender from being suppressed, abused, and controlled as they are today in the patriarchal system. And this takes us back to what we referred to in our crucial history question just yesterday, coming to learn that African humanity does in fact exist, and it is not like the Scandinavian humanity that is driven by the Viking ideology, where the Vikings treat women as, well, property, objects that belong to men, for men to do as they wish to, whenever and however they wish to do it. Well, this, beloved, would be checked and balanced in a matriarchal system where it is the woman, the mother, that continues to inherit through her family, not the man, not the maid. And this, beloved, is what brought about the beginnings of a new African humanity. Because, beloved, from the 17th century, before this common era, to the first century, beloved, the Exodus is what we need to pay attention to, because it was not the crossing of the Red Sea, it was the fleeing of the black Africans from ancient Egypt to escape the barbarians that had conquered Egypt. Ashurbanipal and his Babylonians, and then Cambyses and his Persians. And, beloved, this was the cause of the exodus of black Africans fleeing Egypt. It's not a coincidence that before the successful invasion by Ashurbanipal and then Cambyses, beloved, there was no Ethiopia. There was no West Africa, no Ghana Empire, Mali Empire. Beloved, it's no coincidence that whichever African empire, whichever African civilization that you point to that existed before our enslavement, beloved, this was the period that existed between the exodus out of Egypt and the enslavement, first by the Portuguese, and then, of course, the Dutch, the British, the French. That period of time is a period in our history when kingdoms and tribes were forming all across the continent. It's no coincidence, beloved, that no matter how diligent your research might be, you will never find that there was any humanities that were able to be developed. Again, beloved, the humanities, remember, this is the local way of doing things. And so, while science never changes, beloved, our humanities experience some radical changes between the period of the Exodus caused by the invasion of Ashurbanipal and Cambyses. Beloved, this is the period here now when our African ancestors are doing their best to push back against what became first the Islamic religion with the rise of Prophet Muhammad and East Africa, and then several hundred years later, with the Henry the Navigator and the Portuguese bringing Christianity to West Africa. And by this time, beloved, Africa had become populated by, well, Asian Semitic people that spread across the north coast of Africa, which they renamed the Maghreb. And so you had the Islamic patriarchal way of life in the north and in the east, and the Christian patriotic way of life in the west. And this then was the, well, the chaotic collision that was taking place as the African peoples were trying to build new civilizations, while at the same time trying to protect themselves from the Asian invasion, I should say, of Islam and Christianity. But go straight below it, because we're at the bottom of the hour and we're going to take this little break. So bite and blow, we will be right back.
WSCX, you trying to get out with Mario after this break?
And yes, beloved, we're talking about the African humanities, but we've got somebody being very patient as they knock on our door. So come on, beloved, let's welcome them. Good afternoon. Thank you for your call. Thank you for your patience.
Pleasant good afternoon. Yes, I've been patiently listening to your history lesson today, and I find it very intriguing. And if I understand your message correctly, you're saying that scientific laws can't be defied or violated by human beings, but man-made laws can, and man-made laws can be changed according to the time that we live in, because we know at one point slavery was legal and lawful, and the two worlds that we live in. We have the natural world. That's all the things that we didn't create.
Mhm.
They were here. We found them here, and when we leave, they'll probably still be here unless the entire world planet becomes extinguished. But I think it would probably be here. I don't know if there's any beginning. My belief is I don't believe in a beginning or end. Okay, it's a cycle, and then you have the artificial world, The things that we create, we invent. But we make discoveries of the scientific laws, the natural phenomena, and we make interpretation. But in the past, their ancient way of thinking was everything was linked to some superior force. So if you are bad, that means you get a hurricane or a flood. And it's interesting though when you talk, okay, creation, which one comes first, the egg or the chicken? Because you need a mother to give birth, but you also need the father. Can't happen without the two. Yet, Christianity, as we talk about Christianity, those three established religions are monotheism, monotheistic. That's Judaism, which came first, shortly after that Christianity, and followed by Islam. But they all have one thing in common. The creator is a male. And they go even farther for the Christian religion. You have the Christian God impregnated a virgin who was engaged to Joseph, Mary. And you find a similar message throughout history. It's a religious theme. But that's all it is. It's religion, it's belief. We can't prove the existence of no supreme being, but we could feel the force that we can't control, the force of the wind and the water, gravity. Those things are forces, and we could study them. So I think that's what you're talking about, the scientific laws.
Well, if you will, it is not just simply what I'm talking about. It is what we have all agreed to call it science. But I
Yes.
mean, by any name, it is simply, those things that are universal. Wherever you find them,
Mhm.
they're exactly the same. And that is why I use the simplest example, like 1 plus 1 is 2, wherever you go.
Right.
You throw something up in the air, you expect it's coming back down.
Right.
Whether you call it in English gravity or, whatever the language is that might apply to it, but it is the science that
Right.
we as human beings have to discover. And that science is universal. It's the same wherever you find people, you're going to find that science is there, and it's the same wherever it is that you found it. But
Mhm.
now, what we call humanities is local, and it is only observed in that place by those people at that time.
Right.
So it is ever changing, morphing from one to the next, to the next, to the next. Whereas science, just absolutely does not change. That is the difference there between uh, the science and the humanity. And
Well,
I always saying to you, we're trying to get too, trying not to be too boring with the history that from Ashurbanipal, but particularly Cambyses the Persian, they made it their business to destroy every African humanity that existed. This is what
But they
they
can't
did.
destroy it
Pardon me?
because I said they can't destroy it because it's passed down. But what I would say is we of African descent, we need to recall our history more because a lot of the history, Asian history, it's not even recorded by Africans. It's over people that even were eyewitness, first-hand eyewitness to the event. verify. We can verify religious beliefs such as Jesus Christ, when he was born and when he was born. Or, so
But
Jesus
these are
Christ
the
is not
hum- these are
historical
the
figure.
but these are the humanities. These
Yes,
are the
that's what I'm saying.
humanities, so that it depends on the people and where the location is as to
Right.
how they view this and what is sacred
That's
in
part
their
of the
belief.
culture.
That's their belief.
Yeah, part of the culture is because culture is a broad thing, it's a way of life. The traditions, your beliefs,
Well,
your
there you are.
customs,
Well,
etc.
those are the humanities.
Right. And that's why you have two kinds of degrees. You could have a Bachelor of Arts, you could have a Bachelor of Science degree. The humanities, yes, it's a science to social studies, it's a science. It's studying. A science is to study and to collect information on particular topics. So you have social studies, you have physical science, and that's my area. That's what I thought. Physical science is talking about what we didn't create, the universe, the moon, the star, the earth, the plants, the trees, etc. But we, meaning human beings, we could go back and we could collect evidence of past life to archaeological studies and so forth. And that's why I mentioned about the Olmec heads in Mexico. That's your evidence there. Africans were there. But then they belief, it's a theory, a scientific theory that there was one mass at one time called Pangea. And due to continental shift and earthquake activity, the planet split apart. The masses. So you have the continents, and if you look at the map, they could all fit together like a puzzle pieces. And so you have the Americas. Why Columbus is credited with discovering the new world is because it's well documented. He didn't know where he was going, but he landed up there at his second voyage at Salt River. It's well documented. But I believe Africans explored the Americas long before Europeans. But the problem is documentation. That's why it's important. I love Kathleen
Kathleen Dowling.
Dowling. And I love that. I love to see us writing the story, giving it narrative from our perspective. Because it's very historical, it gives you these are the facts. You can't dispute them. But at the same time, we need to do that more often because if we don't tell the story ourselves, somebody else will tell the story. And they're going to tell it from their perspective. And that's why, for me, history is very important. I want to see our rich history be told. And I want to encourage people to go back and learn your history, find out, because this is not the old, just because this is Black History Month. No. We have a rich history. I don't know who would believe that there's not enough history to be taught. That doesn't make no sense to me.
Well, the first judge that took this case back in 2013, really, that was his point, that we don't have enough history even to finish out this month of the year, Black History Month. That was his point. And we had to go to the Supreme Court, to get the case back in the Supreme Court.
Well, the history goes back to wherever you want to start it. I personally like to start the story with that fateful day, November 14, 1493, when Christopher Columbus and his documented encountered the indigenous people living on this island that they call I, and he named it Santa Cruz.
But then
So I
what
go back
history
there.
are you beginning there now? What history are you beginning? The history of St. Croix? Or what,
No.
when you say, you,
Virgin Islands history.
so that's, you said that was 1493 in your,
Yeah, that's
Ah.
my starting point for my story.
okay,
How I tell it.
okay.
I mean, everybody could say what they want, but they could start
I'm
beyond
just
that.
trying to understand what you're saying, that's all.
Yeah, because it's well documented. And Columbus named the islands, many of the islands in the Caribbean, and he was religious about religion. He introduced Christianity to the Americas. These people didn't know anything about the Jesus Christ and all that. They had their own spirituality, and that was it. So it's not just the African identity was destroyed. You're talking about the indigenous people that were in America, living in America, the Native Americans. I don't call them Indians because they were there in the land before the land was formed to be America. Before the country was, or the nation was created, which is 1776. And we're going to be celebrated. I don't know. I don't get the feeling people want to celebrate that July 4th, 2026, America will be celebrating her 250th birthday. So we can't dissociate. We can't isolate. The histories are all connected. U.S. history, world history, European history, Asian history, because Columbus came from Europe. So when you talk about any history of any place, it's not just that one place. You can't talk about it in isolation. We are Africans who can trace our lineage here during the Danish colonial era. We have a very rich history, and it's a shame that it's not being, I don't know how to put it, promoted enough. But I'm doing my part. But I want to ask you a question. Do you think that Denmark will ever grant reparations to us?
Well, I don't think that they will grant us reparations in the manner that the question suggests, which is that, we, the population of the Danish West Indies, said that, hey, we need to be repaid for the damage that you did to us. I don't think that in that manner, but I think that if we would approach it in a manner that would allow for Denmark to, well, let us just say, to repay some of the harm without without crucifying them with the guilt of its favorite, because, like I said, if anything, they were amongst the last of the European nations to scramble for land and islands in the Caribbean, and this is how they found out, what they call Islas Inútiles, St. Thomas and St. John, because again, the European nations did not consider St. Thomas and St. John of great use to them. First, they wanted precious metals, and then beyond that is, agricultural production, whether it was sugar cane, cotton, tobacco, whatever. And St. Thomas and St. John, well, they were the small islands that didn't provide for this, whereas St. Croix could, and this is how St. Croix was under so many different dominations before the Danes purchased from the French West Indies. You know, St. Croix just 84 square miles of a lot of fertile agricultural land.
Yeah, so I think, yeah, most of the rich history is centered around St.
Yes.
Croix. But, and then we have the freedom fighters that we need to pay tribute, like General Boudreaux, better known as, well, John Gatley, better known as Boudreaux, General Boudreaux, David Hamilton Jackson. So I want to pay tribute to those that came before us and made a significant contribution to our rich history. But like I said, hey, this is the shortest month, but that doesn't mean we could just focus on, paying tribute to them. The history is going to continue as long as we're alive and we're breathing and we're here. But it's up to us. We need to record it. So I'm just doing my part to record it, because what happens today is going to become history tomorrow. So, but I think we should really do a better job in general. I'm not singling out anybody, any agency, no government.
No,
But
but
I
again,
think in general, we also do a better job of promoting our rich history.
well, I think that the government could do a much better job.
I agree. So we'll continue to do our best to promote it and inspire us to write down the history. We don't want our children to forget.
Well, we thank you for
They don't know where they come from.
we thank you for your
Thank
contribution.
you. Thank you.
You're very welcome. Good afternoon.
Yes, good morning. Good
It's,
thanks.
it is afternoon here. But whether it's morning or afternoon, we just want to be grateful for you being patient to
Well, thank
so we
you.
want to
And
welcome you.
you sounding well and focused. May I say this? It's always been a fight between religion and science, and I want to say that, yes, not disputing anything anyone is saying. Yes, everyone has their own, ideas, and they can be well documented and write books and history, but we are immigrants, if you understand what I'm saying. And the stuff that came to our people was enforced on us. And in order for us to survive, we had to go by that in order to survive. But we have our own, like I want to get into like dimension, culture, tradition. Of course, we have different theories from everywhere and anywhere. And what I really want to say is that we seem to focus because we all were immigrants. Things were enforced on us because of slavery, because we were brought here.
But I hope I don't distract you, but I'd like for you to help me to understand how you use the term immigrant, because
Okay.
we were conquered and enslaved. We didn't migrate.
Right.
This was
And,
we didn't know. Immigrant suggests to me that there's a choice in it, and that's why I'm asking you to clarify it for me. What do you mean when you say immigrant?
okay, to the U.S., to the from Africa to the area that they call the United States, or wherever it was we landed on. We were Africans and we were brought out of our home, enforced, and not both areas. I just said we were brought here.
the Indians were here, but we were brought here. Am I right? Or am I wrong?
Yes, I mean, we were
So
conquered,
that's what I was
enslaved,
saying.
and brought, and
Everybody,
that's why I'm asking you if you could help me to understand how you're using the word immigrant so that I can follow you.
that's what I meant. So
Okay.
those ideals and also us for people to survive, everything was enforced on us in order to live, to eat, to survive, work. Everything came down on us.
Yes.
Right, and we have to go by. So those. So I want to say this right quick. I'm trying to talk fast and finish. I lost my thought. Oh, as far as our focus on home, everybody we focus, like you said, and we know, on everything else that we were taught rather than our own. Yes, we know that history is 365 per year, okay? And it's always going to be there. But it's saying like everybody has their own history. Okay, that's true that. Everybody has their own ideas and everybody will document their own books or whatever, come up with their own based on their own perspective in their mind. As far as, I'm hitting back on some points about the impregnation, because I don't like to get into religion and stuff, and we didn't know anything about Jesus Christ. In other areas, like I said, it's a big mystery. It's a big mystery. But when you wake up in the morning, you don't control how you breathe. Okay, like you talk about environmental type of stuff, the universe. You don't control when it rains. Yes, you got science that tell you it may rain today, it may not rain. But you don't control whether you're going to breathe, whether your heart going to beat, whether you're going to urinate. You don't control none of that. So you just here by the grace of what they want to say is a big mystery. We don't control things. You don't control what happens with your body. So, I'm saying it's a big mystery. Can anybody document that? You got some theologians that wrote in the Bible that this is that and that is this. I'm not going to get into that. But it's still a big mystery. Like the young lady said, nobody been there, nobody knows. So it's just like you said, fate, and just like we're trying to fight home to make sure that our history saying we got to do better. We're trying to do better. Look at the fight you have to go through to get it better. But you had your stuff well documented. So it's some things that are hindered for a specific reason. And I want to relate it back to us being immigrants being brought here to serve. Okay? So it's deeper than that. And you keep saying in a very professional way to keep you enslaved. And that's the bottom line. So what you say, outside cultivation is what you got to work on, and you're trying that, but you still got the house person. I'm not going to call names. That the mentality is still like that. So it's that fight against the field, against the house. You know what I'm talking about?
Yes, I know.
Yeah, so you still have that, and
you could call them house Negroes and field Negroes.
Well, I'm trying.
There are other much more insulting N words, but I think Negroes, we understand what you're talking about.
Okay, so I'm trying to be sweet, on my praise of words, because really, like, some folks do get take it the wrong way, but you gotta call a spade, but I'm trying to be very nice about it. So in the deep thought process, all these different histories coming from everything, going to school, yes, we learn about everything, and we can get our children and they stand up and they can put their hand across their hearts and I pledge and all this kind of stuff. Oh yeah, they do that real good. But when you say sing the African song, the African, to the flag, you hardly got that. We do that home. We do that home. but I'm just saying to make it of great importance. So that's why I'm going to say this right quick, Baba. When your grandmother back then used to tell us the real history, and we were listening, I know a lot of the folks probably died out. You're still standing. You know, I don't know if it used to carry on, but it has stopped because we enhance everything else. Every other history is always better than us. And I'm going to say this and I'm going to go right quick. When I was in Central America walking, things like you live a better life if you give up your Mayan culture, your Mayan religion, or your Mayan beliefs, then you will get you won't live in a straw hut anymore. You end up getting concrete house, electric stove, but at the same time, you got to drive so and so back and forth. You're working for them, and you don't give up your beliefs, and you adopted that, and that was that we all got indoctrinated. I saw that through my eyes when I was looking down in Central America, live before my eyes. Some did, you could see. Some didn't because they still lived in straw huts. So you could see who converted, you know? So you have all these different people coming in from every and anywhere to change, to work, and whatever. Then they take the land, then they build, and then they end up having these people working for them. I saw that. So, you know, you keep on the air, you're saying these things, but people don't believe it. But now that it's occurring, and you can't get your own law passed, and you got big argument across the table, can't come together because that's what that's supposed to be. You're supposed to create that. And it happened. And it is happening. Everybody want to be right, but to do the correct thing and really get down and do it, it's going to take some work because you got the house and the field, you know? So that's the thing. I know you're trying, and everybody's trying to work at it, and you're showing that. So if this, you got to do better, you got to do better. Hell, you've done better. You don't got the proper documentation, everything. You know, you just got that fight inside the house. You know, so I don't want to run my mouth like this. I love you. And, man, please, you know, like I said, you're still a brand standing. You just, I hope that it's some more that can stand with that type of mentality instead of Baba is a troublemaker or the people behind Baba is a troublemaker, you know? Gotta get out of that. Gotta be progressive if you want to be inside-outside cultivation. You got to do something. You got to, the seed got to be watered.
Yeah.
So all that talk, that they just, it's gonna go into years and years and years, and the same thing's gonna be right there. So maybe they're like suffering, you know, Baba, but I know one thing, you got the strength and the endurance, and the road that you walk in a good one, because it's strong. It takes a lot on things. Nobody else could ever do it like you.
Thank you.
So, you know, blessed be, because it's a struggle, not just home. It's a struggle now, but they're seeing it live now. It's live everywhere. And when it starts to affect you, then everybody, then you start like, you're sitting there looking like, duh, a big question mark in your head when you had a teacher that told you this way ahead of time. So right now, when you're about to lose certain things, when you see the children and you've seen everything is fading away, even yourself is fading away, your voice is fading away, you have no seat at the table, you to the point, we need to do better. That's not going to work. You should have been listening. It's still late. It's still not too late, but the job is, the mountain is a little steeper to climb. So, Baba, love you. Stay strong. Keep the strength.
Thank
okay?
you, my dear. Thank you.
And I want to say Ashe because we got some struggles too here too, but maybe a little bit more than, you know, we all got the struggles.
Right.
You know? So like you said, like what you always say, bite and blow.
Bite
Let
and blow.
me tell you, man,
Yeah.
that's going to be, it's a big blow you got to blow.
Yes, indeed.
So I just say keep your lungs strong.
All right.
Okay?
All right. Thank you so much. Thank you so much.
Okay.
Be well,
Okay,
be well.
blessings.
All right, thank you.
Ashe.
Ashe, yes, indeed. Good afternoon.
Good afternoon, Baba. How are you today?
Trying to be as well as how you sound. You sound good,
Yes,
and
I'm
I'm
good.
here to welcome you. Thank you for your patience, my dear. Talk to me.
Oh, okay, so I was just listening to some of your callers and stuff like that, and one that kind of struck me out was when someone said they would like to go back to when Christopher Columbus, I guess, came to the Caribbean and stuff like
Yes,
that.
yes,
So when I heard that, like my heart kind of dropped because he really didn't do any justice when he landed in these places. So I wouldn't want to really go back to that. So I just want to move on because I just want to read a little piece of history for everyone. And this is where most of the sambos was created, and this is why today we can't seem to get it together as people, especially Black people. So this one is called the Meritorious Manumission. And I know you know about that because you're a very good reader and you're an elder. So I know you know about that. But I'm sure some of us don't know about that. And this is something that I've been teaching myself for quite some time now. So like I said, learning history is a very interesting thing. And I love it because it teaches you and it gives you like that feeling that you don't owe nobody nothing. You know that kind of way when you're reading it and you see all your ancestors and what they have done and what they have pushed.
yes.
So we ain't supposed to bow our head no longer. We ain't supposed to bow our head no more. So anyway, meritorious manumission, right, was a legal colonial era practice, notably in Virginia, 1710 to 1723, allowing slaveholders to free enslaved people who performed meritorious services, typically saving a master's life, inventing profitable technology, or exposing slave results. It was used to encourage loyalty to white masters, create a class of loyal Black individuals, and foster distrust among enslaved people. So the key details regarding that include definition and purpose. The act was designed as a reward for actions deemed valuable to the institution of slavery and the state. It was often a form of psychological warfare, rewarding betrayal of fellow enslaved people. An example of meritorious service, saving the life of a white enslaver, reporting on slave conspiracies, or informing on those planning to escape. And then you go into evolution of law. In Virginia, early 18th century, laws allowed for this. But by the 1723, only the governor and council could approve such acts, making it highly restrictive. 1782 Act, a later distinct 1782 Virginia law allowed for broader manumission, which was in some cases based on the meritorious actions of enslaved people and other factors. Beyond loyalty, some evidence suggests that highly productive or skilled, often males, enslaved individuals were more likely to be manumitted. This practice was seen as a way to maintain control over the enslaved population by offering a rare, conditional, and highly selective path to freedom. So now we change that now, and then we look at it today, Baba, when we got our own working in these governments right now. And they also is doing the work of the slave master to this day. So that merited manumission is what really catalytic the symbols today. So when you speak about next year, about 250 years America, what can we really celebrate about America? Can somebody please just call your show and answer that question for me, because for some reason our mind is still in that mentality, because history has shown history before everything, just history before, and then you reach now. We are still being attacked. We're still being disenfranchised. Ain't nothing changing. And you know why? Because we are helping the colonizers them continue with this stuff. So I wish that person wouldn't even mention Christopher Columbus, because those is, do you know in Florida they don't even celebrate that day as a holiday? But for some reason here, we acknowledge that day. You know what I mean? And I guess they entwine it with Puerto Rican Friendship Day. And I don't understand that. Like, why would they even do that? Why would they even pick Puerto Rican Friendship Day on a day of Christopher Columbus? Somebody needs to change that, because that's the two celebrating. You celebrate, okay, we celebrated Puerto Rican Friendship Day, but guess what? It's on the day of Christopher Columbus Day. How is that? But anyway, I'm going to leave Ayo with this. We can disagree, right? And still love each other, which is all good. But unless your disagreement, right, is rooted in my oppression and denial of humanity and right to exist, all blood is off. So this is why I have to call, and I just want people to really go and look up history. Not no Christopher Columbus, and nobody want to think about him and what he has done. He came and he raped off a lot of women, and he probably raped off men too. So I really wouldn't want to go back into that history. I would like to go back into other histories, what gave us the strength and the courage to keep pushing and fighting. And you stay strong, Baba, okay? And thank you for your time, eh?
Thank you for your call and your contribution. Thank you so much.
You're welcome.
Beloved, I think we should know a little bit about the African humanities that will remain hidden, suppressed, and, well, not something that we want to pass on to our children or students, because as much as we try to expose our students to the courageous history of resistance that our ancestors left for us. Well, as scholars are pointed out here, especially this last scholar here, there are them and those who do their best to get us to embrace, to accept, to assimilate, and to live with the humanities of our conqueror, the humanities of those who enslaved us. And again, it's a difficult concept to live with, but then again, we have every kind of opinion under the sun that you will find from our people. And so, yes, there are them and those amongst us who are, well, as oppressed as we have been, as descendants of enslaved Africans, but somehow they see good in what the oppressors, the colonizers, the conquerors, the enslavers, they find good in what they did. Well, beloved, I'd like to point out to you that in Europe, he's called Thoth. That's Thoth. But in Africa, we know him as Jehuti. Jehuti. Beloved, the books of Tot, the books of Jehuti tells us that it was our civilization that brought writing, reading and writing to be. And it is Jehuti who literally get us to discover the science in his books of wisdom. And these are the books that the Persians, under the leadership of Cambyses, made it their business to, well, destroy and burn. And so, yes, let us speak about the African humanities. Hold straight, beloved. We'll be right back. Oh, it's difficult to explain. Ooh.
Tobias, since you try to get on Mario.
Hello?
Hey, how you doing today?
beloved. We're back, and we need to reward some patience because Carl has been very patient with us all around. So come with me. Good afternoon.
Yeah, good afternoon.
Thank you for your call and for your patience. Thank you for your call and for your patience. Welcome.
Yes. I don't think many people in the U.S. celebrate Columbus Day as Columbus Day. I think New York is the one place where you have a lot of Italian Americans there, and it's more like an Italian American Heritage Day, that kind of a thing.
Yeah.
But I think most people have come to the realization that Columbus was not a nice man and did a lot of atrocities, and so you don't have, but it's a federal holiday. It has been for a while, so you get the day off. So that's why they use it here for Puerto Rican Friendship Day. And other places do some other celebration because the day is given. But it's not to celebrate Columbus. I think when I was early elementary, you had Nina, the three ships, and you had the story of Columbus. But by the time you got to junior high, you were like, okay, this is not a nice man. And my children went through school, and I don't remember them doing anything with Columbus. When I was in the States for, undergrad and grad school and whatnot, the place, and I lived maybe 4 different places during that time, and I don't remember any of them doing anything special. It was basically sales. Stores had good prices, and that's what Columbus Day meant to me when I was in the States, because that's what people focused on.
Right.
Nobody was really honoring Columbus.
I think for the most part, you are articulated it as it is that well, the more advanced we get into it, who knows, by another generation, who knows how we will see Christopher Columbus, but we do not see him, as the callers pointed out here, as a very good man, a very good human being, a very good person. We do not.
Yeah. And so Columbus Day is in the U.S. and definitely here. It's not a celebration about Columbus. People celebrate other things. And instead, and they do it on that day because the government gives us and has been, sort of given that as a holiday.
Yeah.
And they basically use it in a sense as a protest. That they're basically saying, we don't like him, we don't like what he did, so we're going to celebrate something different.
I agree.
Yeah. All right. So that's all. I just wanted to pitch that in before you go to the question. History question.
No history question today. I am sitting in for my one and only sister. Today is Wednesday, but I'm overjoyed, as I'm sure beautiful Aisha is, that she's listening, to see just how popular the program is as far as the Crucian history question, because more and more people, just as you were explaining how they view Christopher Columbus, they view in this Crucian history question as a classroom. And it's a
Yes, definitely.
it's a 20 minutes of Crucian history every Tuesday. So
yeah, definitely. I said it's our only pipeline. The only place you really get it. I really can't say that there's any other place right now, unfortunately and sadly, that we can get this, to any significant, other than Columbus. Again, a lot of the history is about the colonizers and what they did.
Well, I would like for your comment, if you will. If you don't have any comment, that's fine too. But again, my use of the punishment of the laborers, as that's the late Governor Turnbull has said in his book, The History of the United States Virgin Islands, that there was explosions of rum barrels that caused the 14 women in Crowcliffe to lose their lives. Well, I was just trying to relate the fact that uh, that is an example of Scandinavian humanities in that up until the 19th century, they did not, because they accepted the Viking ideology of patriarchy, that women did not have the capacity to commit a capital crime like murder. And so, therefore, if they were charged and convicted of such a crime, it had to be that uh, that woman or those women were possessed by evil spirits and therefore had to be burned at the stake as witches. And so that it is the Scandinavian humanity that we observe throughout the Danish West Indian period of history here in these islands that you would never hear of the execution of a female. Imprisonment, but there's no execution because again of the Scandinavian humanity. And so that I was trying to get a comment out of you of my using that to try to explain to the beloved audience that hey, see, this is a matter of humanities as opposed to science. And it is the Scandinavian humanities up until the 19th century that women, females, simply didn't have the capacity to commit capital murder.
Well, as you say this, it brings to mind Joan of Arc from France.
Yes.
That they burnt her at the stake rather than hanging her or
Yes.
beheaded.
Yes.
So it seems like and of course France was conquered at one point by, well, not conquered, but raided and by the Vikings. So you have some of that Viking thought apparently carried over to that area.
Yeah.
Because there is a question as to, well, why would they burn her rather than, hanging or beheaded
Right.
or, something which they tend to use for the men.
Yeah.
Yeah. So it does make sense. And yeah. Oh, the other thing too, the caller was saying that religion and science are at odds. But that is not a natural odd, it's more of a historical thing. Religion and science actually backs up religion. And there's a lot of things in science that, and particularly physics, that that pretty much supports a creator. It's just that history-wise, religion came before science. And so there were centuries where people, if they had some kind of a scientific observation, something happened in the natural world, the only place to go to ask about it was the church, was and so religion came up with explanations about things that were not, they weren't studying the natural world, but they were asked questions about it. And so, of course, they had to give the people something. It just turned out that a lot of stuff they gave the people were incorrect because it wasn't their expertise. But there was nobody else around. So when science came around and started to see that some of the things that the religious leaders were saying about the natural world were incorrect, that's where the problem came in. But if science was there as building at the same time as religion, and therefore people would realize that, in fact, what the Catholic Church is now is saying, that is not our expertise. If you have a science question, go to scientists. And in fact, the Catholic Church is doing stuff. They have an observatory and whatnot. They're involved in science.
Mm.
So, and as I said, there's a lot of things in science. So, like in physics, you have energy can't be created or destroyed. And that this is one of the golden rules, that, is not broken. And but that's, if you take that and you extend it further, it means that, so for example, and also that mass is a form of energy. So what we're made up of is a form of energy, which means it has always existed and will always exist. It can only be transformed from one type of energy to the other, or transferred from one object to the other. So it means that the whole universe, the energy that is used to create it, had to have always existed. There's other things along those lines that point to a creator. And so there isn't a natural problem between religion and things. And scientists usually bring it up to the door of religion and leave it there. They're like, okay, we saw what happened when religion stepped over into areas that they weren't experts in. So we're not going to do it. We'll bring it up to the door and leave it. And leave it for religious people, experts, to make the natural conclusion that is there. So it's a more of a historical problem or a historical battle between them rather than a natural battle. They actually support each other if you look at it.
Okay. Appreciate that contribution.
No problem.
Thank you.
All right. They actually support each other.
Good afternoon. Hello. Okay, well, beloved, at any rate, we're trying to point out that we have, well, maybe this is it, I don't know, let's see. Good afternoon.
Good afternoon again.
Welcome again.
Thank you. Columbus Day is not celebrated here in the U.S. Virgin Islands.
No, it is not.
Instead, what we celebrate
it's
is
Puerto Rico Friendship Day.
right, Virgin Islands, Puerto Rican Friendship Day. So
Yes.
I don't know of anybody who portray Columbus in a positive light and rejoice and all that. And in some places in the States, they don't celebrate Columbus Day. They celebrate what is known as Indigenous Peoples Day. So how could anybody expect to teach Virgin Islands history and not mention the name Christopher Columbus at all? Don't they understand what the name Santa Cruz stands for? Who named this island that we reside in on Santa Cruz? When you take children to South River at the National Historic Park, and they see the structure there, the historic site called Columbus Landing, and they ask you why is it called Columbus Landing, what are you supposed to tell them? You can't include the name Christopher Columbus. Because you mentioned the name Christopher Columbus, that means you're celebrating Christopher Columbus. It's documented. These are facts that can't be disputed. And just think of the name. Santa Cruz. It's Spanish. Look at the nickname for Santa Cruz. It's the land of seven flags. What are you going to
tell the children when they ask, why is the first flag Spain? Can you give them an answer without mentioning the word Christopher Columbus, the name? We can't just delete history because we don't like it. There's some parts of history that is so painful, so horrific. When we hear or read about the treatment of the enslaved by Denmark. But you have to say it, speak truth. It may not make you feel pleasant, but it happened. It's well documented. So why are we going to deny that? Christopher Columbus on November 14, 1493, encountered the indigenous people, the Caribs and the Tainos. They were the inhabitants. They were here before the Europeans. Spain is the first European nation to colonize the Americas. But why we use most of the islands speaking English is because Great Britain was a powerhouse. Great Britain was dominant. So you have a few places in the Caribbean that speak Spanish as the first language, and like Puerto Rico, because they were there. The Spaniards colonized Puerto Rico. So how are we supposed to just eliminate that from the history book? Because you don't think Columbus was a great person. I don't think he was a great person either. He sounds like a great person to me. But that doesn't mean I shouldn't mention Christopher Columbus. It's not going to change the fact. He's still regarded. He still got the credit. It's not that I give him the credit. He's credited with discovering the new world. That's the credit. Any history book that you read about the Americas would mention Christopher Columbus. That's not praising him. That's just telling the history and giving the facts, because sometimes the history is just a story, but that's just more than the story. That's actual documentation that he was here. And it's documented Danish, West Indies, which included St. Croix, St. Thomas, and St. John. The Danish West Indies was sold to the United States from Denmark for $25 million in gold. So we're not supposed to talk about U.S. history, right? We're not supposed to mention the fact that, yes, you have a white supremacist in the White House, Trump, but you can't avoid it. I mean, that's it. That's the reality. Trump was elected. He's represented people who have a racist attitude, who don't want to see us, people of color, excel. You see the things that he has been doing to President Obama. You heard about that? How he vilified Obama and his wife, Michelle Obama.
Oh yes, yes, I heard that. He had them, their faces planted on the bodies of apes.
Yeah. I mean, so they're not able to talk about it no more. And for those that support Trump, people of color, I just don't get it. I don't get it. I don't know. Maybe what you supporting Hitler, I don't know. I can't understand how somebody that's so blatantly racist you would support, and you would not vote for somebody who is a.
Well, you have the only black Republican in the Senate who is a supporter of President Trump, and I know that because it's my son that pointed out to me that was Scott. Tim Scott is his name, from South Carolina, is a senator, the only black Republican senator. That when he said that this was the most racist thing to come out of the Trump administration.
And he comment also, Trump disinvited the governor of Maryland, who is a person of color, to attend a dinner for governors from the nation. I don't know if he disinvited our governor or governors from the other unincorporated territories, because I don't believe they were. And I don't know if the governor, our governor, the Honorable Albert Bryan Jr., is he attending that? Are you?
I am not familiar with this. I know about, governors' conferences and an annual, conference for governors that is held, and it's bipartisan. But I do not know what has happened this year, as you're implying that something happened with the governor of Maryland.
Yes.
I'm not familiar with it.
governor of
I don't
Maryland.
have TV, so I usually
Who
get
is-
my news late.
He is the vice chair of that same committee with the Governors Association,
Okay.
and he was disinvited by Trump.
Oh.
Okay, so that's why I'm wondering what about the governors from the unincorporated territories? I don't know. I haven't heard any information, but he was
I
the
don't
only
know.
one, and he is the chair, the vice chair of that same association. And
Mm.
so I'm saying, recognizing facts doesn't mean you're paying tribute to anyone. That's it. The history is documented, whether we like it or not. We were once Danish subjects. The Congress conferred citizenship on all the inhabitants of these islands at the time of the transfer of the sovereignty from Danish to United States. Our nationality is American. You could deny it. You could say you don't feel like you're American. You don't identify you're American. It doesn't change fact. We're under the jurisdiction of the United States. The U.S. Constitution that you talk a lot about is the supreme law of the land. That means it's over the Virgin Islands of the United States. So whatever Constitution is created.
Well, if I could interrupt, and this is just to support what you're saying, is that we as an unincorporated territory cannot change, amend, or in any way override any federal legislation.
Exactly.
So as the revised organic act is a federal document, we cannot amend it.
And it's also, we could have our feelings. We all entitled to our feelings and perspectives, theories, and beliefs. But we're not entitled to our own facts. Facts can be verified. And I am saying the fact is 1776 was the creation of the nation. That's the birthday of America. And 2026 will be 250 years. If we don't want to acknowledge that, that's fine. We're still going to happen. It's still going to happen. It is going to be celebrated. I don't know what role we're going to play here because the governor, the Honorable Albert Bryan Jr., he has been mum on the subject. And there was a commission that was created to celebrate America's 250th birthday. It was established. I am on that commission, but I am not speaking too much on it because the governor has yet to put all the people in place on that commission. And I don't know what direction we're heading with that because July is coming. I'm not promoting anything because I don't speak on behalf of anybody. I just speak on behalf of myself. And I believe we should recognize the 250th birthday of America. And I'm not denying the fact that I'm American, but we have choice. If we don't wish to be part of the
United States. We could go back, like, study U.S. history. What happened when the 13 colonies decided they had enough? They're going to break ties with Great Britain. They are going to seek their independence, and Great Britain resisted that. So they fought for it, and it was a bloody battle. But they won. They prevailed. That's how the nation was born. And we're under this United States, so I don't see anything wrong in giving recognition. I'm not going to go out there and have a big party or anything like that. When July 4th comes, I celebrate like I usually do. And July 3rd, I always make sure I pay tribute to John Gatley, the freedom fighter. So I praise those who came before me to make this nation as great as it is. And I'm not just talking about our ancestors here in the U.S. Virgin Islands. In general, all those Africans that were taken out of Africa and sent to be enslaved in the Americas, whether it's Brazil, United States, the Caribbean, they should be recognized. And there was the ones that were sent to America. They have built a nation. So America doesn't belong to white men only. We are in this. These people of color, they've made America the way it is. They sacrificed their blood, sweat, and tears. So they should be proud too, because it's not those people alone from the Revolutionary War, the delegates to the U.S. Constitution. They didn't make America by themselves. It was there all the other immigrants too. We want immigrants. The African, they were brought here in chains. So, but later on, you had people immigrated from Africa, and still people from all over the world, despite America's ugly history of oppression, of enslavement, the Jim Crow era. We can't deny this fact. It happened. Let's learn from that. Let's teach our children the importance of history, because you always have to fight for your rights. It's not handed to you on a silver platter. They are freedom fighters like John Gatley, General Burholt. You think they were waiting around and say, hey, we don't wait until you decide to free us? No. You have to fight. But we don't have to do it in a bloody way. We don't have to fight each other. We don't have to kill each other. If the majority of people in this island, or this territory, decide they want independence, I'm talking like 80% of the population, I don't believe America will say, no, we're not granting it to you. I could be wrong, but I don't think that will ever happen anyway. My belief is the majority of people like it the way it is. They love the status quo, because I don't see nobody jumping up and down and saying, let's change it. They like it. They like the SNAP, Section 8, FEMA. And I want us to be more self-sufficient, but like you said, I'm like, maybe 99% of the food we eat is imported. But we need to be more self-sufficient, and at the same time, too, I don't believe we're going to sabotage with the United States. We are forever linked. Between Denmark and the United States, it's there forever. But that doesn't mean we got to be chained. We could free our mind, emancipate ourselves from mental slavery,
and learn all the history. Don't just exclude the part that you don't like. You don't like the fact that Christopher Columbus came here on November 14th, so don't mention his name around. That's not going to change it. I mean, it's a fact. So what we have to do is learn as much as we can, the good, the bad, the ugly, and make sure that we have self-praise. Be proud of what we have become. I like this song by Bob Marley, which we have triumphed. Some people say we still in mental slavery, okay, and we have colonial minds, but that's their opinion. I say we have choice. We want this to, if we want independence, and we have the numbers, it can happen. I don't see it happening. I don't even see. I'm losing hope now with us getting a constitution. I mean, it looks like we could be under the revised organic act. So definitely, I don't know, but we don't have to condemn each other because we have a difference of opinions. We can respect each other's different opinions. But I think we all want the same thing. We want to see a better Virgin Islands. We must maybe have a different political ideology. But I'm more focused on learning the history, how you want to vote and all of that. I don't really like to get into that political thing, the politics, because to me, that's just people become enemies because you're supporting one person or one team or one party. Why we have to be enemies?
I don't know, but I thank you for it as well.
Thank you.
I'm about to take a last break for today, but I just want to clarify that them and those who want us as a people, as a territory, to be self-supported, it does not mean you want to be independent.
Right, I agree.
Okay. I just want to make that clear.
Yes. Thank you.
Thank you. Thank you. All right.
Okay, thanks.
And beloved, we're taking our last break. So hold straight. We will be right back. We're back, beloved, and this is our final break of the program. And beloved, of my extended substitution for my one and only sister, who insists on me pointed out to a beloved audience that she is not an American. She is a U.S. citizen, but she is a Caribbean American woman of African descent. And so we don't have to get into the discussion as to who is this and that because, well, seriously, we are just United States citizens, citizens of the United States, but that does not make us Americans. And so, so much for that. But beloved, I have spent, well, maybe too much of my opinion in trying to get us to have an understanding of what is African humanities. And I'm not too confident that I accomplished that. We still don't have a clear distinction between what is science and what is human, what is scientific and what is a humanity. So the humanities are, well, it is for us to understand that it is the local application of our humanities. Because what it comes down to, beloved, is plain and simple. It's the way of life of our people. That's what the humanities are up to. And basically, we were trying to point out to you that, well, before capture, before enslavement, we did have our African Egyptian civilization that the Egyptian priest Manito clearly pointed out that that civilization began in the 17th century before the Common Era. And beloved, I don't know how to make it clearer than that because it is Jehuti who we refer to as the our God of wisdom because well, he is the one who instructed our people as they traveled down north from the mountains of the moon. And Jehuti gave us the 36 20,000 books that outline our way of life as a matriarchal people. And beloved, it was destroyed, simply destroyed when the barbarians were finally successful in the invasion of ancient Egypt in the 7th century, which, what can I tell you other than that? Beloved, up until then, we even had a religion of our own. There's Osiris, Set, Horus, Isis, and as Sheikh Anta Diop, the Egyptologist that I respect, as he's pointed out, that this was the foundation of religion. And it is from a conflict between Osiris and Set that led to his dismemberment, causing ISIS to search the Nile for his member. But she was successful because, beloved, Isis and Osiris did in fact produce Horus. And despite science, this is the belief that we held dear, and until we were conquered and then enslaved. This is the religion that gave life to that civilization that started back in the 17th century before the Common Era, which is, like I said before, 20,000 years ago. And beloved, Jehuti is not known to many of us, as well as Thoth is known as Thoth. You would know the books of Thoth, and there's a total of 36,000 books. And beloved, well, I don't have to tell you because you would have to be aware that it is the African duty that discovered reading and writing, and even the one determined how to measure time. But let me bring in this last people. Good afternoon.
Good afternoon, Mario. How are you?
Trying to be well. Thank you for your call. Welcome.
Thank you for sharing the history of food for our soul and nourishment for our brain.
Right.
To get us away from this mental emancipation. It's lack of knowledge, lack of understanding. We have to speak out as human beings in the world we live in and the things that are still occurring to just people in general.
Right.
The system is truly, the system is truly wanting to end poverty. They would, Mario. Our local government, they could fix the problem. But they don't want to.
Well,
So
our locals.
Out here is a failure.
Well, that's why I
It's
call them.
designed that way, Mario.
I call them the good for that misleaders. Remember that, and they are only concerned in curry favoring with our colonizers in Washington D.C. That's their interest.
Yeah, but poverty is not an accident, Mario. These things are designed that way. It is maintained to keep people. How the system is set up, when you really watch, really and truly see what's going on.
Yeah.
You gotta get grants you want, and you always want. There's a need for, to beg, basically, in a sense,
Yeah.
through paperwork. Like you asking for something that is already yours.
Yeah.
But they will divide the people because unity is never attacked by accident, Mario. They don't want the people to unify. They say, no, it's an accident. Divide and conquer.
All right.
It's only an accident because it makes the people more dangerous when they unify, when they come together. Before people gain, power, they are divided. And if they come together, they have bigger power, bigger chance to really come together and do what's needed. But we are divided in many different ways through misinformation. Division is very granted and our leaders, and they use fear. It's a shame when you see when these things are happening, Mario. And a lot of our previous leaders and spokespeople spoke about all these things.
Yeah.
Division is it's preparation for control. When you divide the people, you're trying to control them.
Yeah.
Divide and conquer, divide and rule. And many of the leaders, especially the black leaders like Malcolm X, Martin Luther King, Hubert Henry Harrison, they spoke about all these different things that we are here trying to have what's called lack of understanding to the rest of the each one teach one to the community.
Mm-hmm.
And if we could understand that, that's the only way we'll come together and move forward. That we are being targeted. And the people really don't think they're being targeted. Because, who's I? It's a family. That's why you have brothers and sisters, uncle, auntie, grandmother, etc.
I hear you.
They don't understand the truth. And it's elders. That you have the older, you have the middle, and you have the younger. And we all work together to make the community and the world a better place to live in. You understand? That's how these things work. You understand?
I hear
But
you.
unfortunately, things happen a little bit different, where it's not really being educated on a different level. They don't teach much of economics, they don't teach about finance, they don't teach about, the stock market. They teach the main people, don't teach them the rest. They take a lot of tools people that got something from the generation and don't want to see other family members to have.
I hear
And they
you.
will laugh at them and joke at them and say, oh, you're jealous. You're jealous. You steal and you is wrong and steal what you did. You know what you did is wrong. But they would go along like nothing happened. Who's you? You ain't gonna do nothing and so forth. But it's to be educated, to have a lot of understanding, to do something, to get something done, Mario. And I will leave on that, Mario, based on our leaders. They will tell us a lie and not tell us the truth at the same time, Mario. And I have to stress that.
I hear you.
So I will leave on that note, Mario. Keep it.
All right. Hey, thanks for your contribution, man. Thank you. But beloved, that is the major problem that we have, and that's, as I call it, the good for not misleaders, is that uh, since 1970, we have had the authority to elect our own government. That's not a simple thing. The authority was given to us with the election in 1970. And we used that authority to elect Dr. Melvin Evans as our first governor, well, our first elected governor. And our president, Albert Bryan Jr., is number 9. So we have elected 9 governments since 1970. This November, we'll be electing our 10th governor, our 10th, number 10. And beloved, you know, because I say it repeatedly, that beloved, we don't produce anything. And everything we consume comes from the outside. The very water that we drink now comes from the outside. And it doesn't seem to be any kind of a problem for our elected leaders that we don't produce anything. They are pleased to have us as a tourist destination. And there simply is no need for us to have any education, any enlightenment about our identity, who we are as the descendants of enslaved Africans. Who are we? We have no idea. And our good for not misleaders, they don't have any concern that I could detect. They don't have any concern that we don't know our history, that we don't teach our history in our schools, so that for the foreseeable future, we still won't know who we are. And we'll be completely subject to the, well, the misleading narratives of our unincorporated territory that, well, basically tells us that we don't have any history. We are an inferior people. We should be grateful, thankful that we were, well, captured and enslaved, because it allowed for us to be civilized. And so here we are today, civilized as the subject of the unincorporated territory of the United States of America. We don't even know what that means, how it relates to us, but we don't seem to be concerned about that at all. And to the best of my analysis, it seems that our elected leaders are only concerned about how, well, how we relate as a tourist destination, because that is our destiny, to be a tourist destination. And so that, yes, when natural disaster strikes, as it will occasionally, this is when we are confronted with the reality that, beloved, we are helplessly dependent on the outside for a livelihood, for our way of life. And as uncomfortable as that sounds when verbalized, beloved, that is our reality. That is how we live. And despite our protestations, our elected leaders, the ones I call our good for nothing misleaders, they have absolutely no concern about the chaos that abides in our population, where the United Nations itself could rate us per capita, beloved, per capita. The United Nations says we have the highest murder rate in the Caribbean. And it doesn't bother our elected leaders in the least. After all, our elected leaders in this territory of less than 90,000 people, less than 90,000 population. And yet we have the highest paid governor in the Caribbean. Our senators, beloved, our senators make more money than our elected representatives in Puerto Rico. A senator in Puerto Rico makes, well, less money than our 15 senators in our first branch of government. And yes, beloved, they are even compensated at a higher rate than the very governor of Puerto Rico in a population of 3.5 million people. Needless to know, this is what the unincorporated territory of the Virgin Islands of the United States of America looks like up close. And with that, beloved, we hope that you have at least a basic understanding of the difference between a science and a humanity. In the meantime, don't allow them to tell us that we can't fill up the basket they give us because it's too big. One will fill up any basket just as long as we do it. Get down.